Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Paul Schicatano. Joining us from New York by telephone is Democratic pollster and author Doug Schoen. Doug's latest book is called Hopelessly Divided: The New Crisis in American Politics and What It Means for 2012 and Beyond. He is also a regular on Fox News and a Newsmax contributor. Doug, welcome to Newsmax TV.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Congress held a hearing today on the Benghazi tragedy. How much damage do you think has been done to President Obama's administration and ultimately his legacy?
Well, I think this is still a work in progress. Look, the hearing today raises more questions about what happened, why a force was not sent in to try to rescue the ambassador and his colleagues. We still have unanswered questions about what the president knew, when he knew it, what he was doing. So I think, Paul, we are really still in the middle of a drama that's playing itself out.
Is Benghazi potentially something that could follow Hillary Clinton into the 2016 presidential race?
Well, I would be very surprised if other candidates, certainly Republicans, didn't raise it. Again, there have been questions about the performance of the State Department. She herself has acknowledged that she, as Secretary of State, has ultimate responsibility for what goes on. So I think that, again, this remains very much a work in progress.
Now, the Heritage Foundation released a new study this week warning that the Senate's immigration reform legislation could end up costing taxpayers $6.3 trillion. Is this likely to be a divisive issue for Republicans?
Well, on one hand, it could cost $6.3 trillion, according to Heritage. On the other hand, Republicans have lost the popular vote in 5 of the last 6 presidential elections, and unless they can prove more adept than they've been at winning Hispanic votes, they will suffer and suffer grievously. So from where I sit, the Republicans have to get behind in some form immigration reform. The cost, obviously, a central issue, but not a dispositive one.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio is one of the Gang of 8 who has been working on immigration reform. How might this help his chances if he makes a run for the White House?
Well, if there is immigration reform and it gets passed, it will undeniably be a benefit to him in the Republican primary. He's a very narrow front runner in the polls that I've seen, and passage of this legislation will only help him.
Well, speaking of 2016, New Jersey Governor Christie recently underwent weight loss surgery. How much of a difference does this really make in the eyes of voters?
Well, I think there's a real question. There are 2 questions with him. One, the issue of control, self-control, and second, the issue of health. He's had asthma attacks that have at least temporarily disabled him, and I think that one of the real questions is he fit? Is he able to go through a campaign and to govern? And I hope that the surgery was successful, and I hope that the answer to those questions is yes.
Jeb Bush's famous family is already pushing him to run in 2016. How likely is it that we might see a third Bush in the Oval Office?
Well, I am a big fan of Bush. I think he is a terrific guy, very successful governor, somebody who can forge bipartisan consensus, and I think it would only be to the good if Jeb Bush ran, and I think he'd be an excellent president.
Well, who are some of the other Republicans who might consider a run for the White House?
Well, you have Rand Paul, certainly Christie, Scott Walker, Paul Ryan. That's, I think, the top tier of presidents.
Now, President Obama has attempted to make gun control a pivotal element of his second term. How would you score the president's job performance thus far?
Well, it's interesting, putting aside what I might think. The New York Times poll, in giving him, I think, about a 47% approval overall, gave him, I think, 41 on gun control, 44 on immigration. So it's pretty clear that less than a majority approve of the president's performance.
Now, in your mind, does Hillary have a lock on the Democratic nomination if she tosses her hat in the ring, or would she face a potential battle from Vice President Joe Biden or even others?
Well, I think she'll get the nomination if she speaks it, I'm not sure Biden would run. She leads the Democratic preference polls by something like 60-7 over Biden. So I don't think that the incumbent vice president has much, if any, of a chance.
Our guest today, Democratic pollster Doug Schoen, author of Hopelessly Divided, The New Crisis in American Politics and What It Means for 2012 and Beyond. Doug, thank you as always for joining us on Newsmax.
Well, it's always a great pleasure. Thanks for having me.